nutraceuticals industry gaining renewed immunity with sustainability. I'm really delighted to be presenting this Vitafoods India webinar on such a pivotal topic for the nutraceuticals industry right now, and also a subject that's quite close to my heart. If I may, I'd just like to start with what I think is quite a fitting quote from American business theorist W. Edwards Deming. He said, "It is not necessary to change. Survival is not mandatory." I think this is certainly apt when it comes to the drive for greater sustainability. Turned on its head, obviously the quote implies that change is indeed very much necessary for survival. And that's true from both a business and an existential perspective. So the need to be proactive in this area is obviously paramount. And for our industry and with many others, that means changing processes, it means innovating, it also means grasping the nettle, so to speak, when it comes to embracing regulatory change. So with that in mind, we have a jam-packed session today, covering everything from soaring consumer demand for sustainable, natural and organic solutions, alongside key supply chain innovations that are advancing sustainability, circular economy approaches for the nutraceutical sector, innovations focused on immune health, the shifting regulatory environment, of course, and the challenges and opportunities that exist for players in this emerging and evolving landscape, and also future prospects for the nutraceutical sector amidst the rapid growth we're now seeing in terms of the demand for clean, ethical products. And guiding us through these major trends and significant themes will be our two fabulous expert speakers. So first up, we have the wonderful Nandini Roy Choudhury, client partner at Future Market Insights, who has vast functional expertise in health and nutrition solutions, alongside advising industry leaders across the sector and exploring both the nascent opportunities and emergent challenges. And following on from Nandini, we will be hearing from the fantastic David Sackler, CEO of SDC Nutrition, a leading powder, capsule and tablet supplement manufacturer based in the United States. David will be bringing to our discussion an interesting blend of academic excellence and also considerable professional insights into the dynamic world of health and wellness. Following on from David's talk, we'll be sitting down with both David and Nandini for our Q&A, and essentially I'll be picking their brains on all things sustainability related, alongside taking some questions from the audience on this increasingly important topic. So just before handing you over to our first speaker, I'd just like to advise our audience that we will, of course, be sending you the presentations and the webinar recording after the event. Both of those will be emailed to you the day after this session. But also, if you have any questions for our speakers throughout the session, please do feel free to add these to the comment box, and we'll endeavour to get through them. Alternatively, we will answer these questions after the event. So now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to hand over to Nandini Roy Choudhury, client partner at Future Market Insights, for our first presentation. Take it away, Nandini.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, David. And hello to everyone who has joined. I am Nandini Roy Choudhury from Future Market Insights. I'm here to discuss a topic that is not only relevant but crucial to our industry: cultivating a greener future, sustainability practices in nutraceutical industry. So today we are going to explore how the sustainability is reshaping our industry, how the customer expectations and demands are evolving, and how embracing these changes can lead to not just ecological benefits, but also a substantial business growth on paper. Moving forward, maybe I would like to just give you an idea about what Future Market Insights does. Tandra, you can go to the next slide, please. So, Future Market Insights is a market research and consulting firm. FMI has been pioneering force in the overall research industry and business consulting since 2014, serving 80% of the largest Forbes 1000 companies. We have established ourselves as a trusted partner with a renewable rate of our customers to be more than 75%. FMI works on various domains, starting from supplements, nutraceutical industry to ingredients, healthcare sectors, and consumer goods as well. Um, we were named as the market research brand of the year and is recognized by the clutch leader last year from our high client satisfaction scores. And Future Market Insights help shape resilient enterprises equipped to face the future challenges and anything which is changing into the industry. So now talking more about the sustainability and the green issues that we have. Next slide, please. So, how the shift to sustainability is happening over the screen, you can see across the various generations which are the primary customer needs or customer trends are. The highlight is uh, pretty much clear. The concept of sustainability in the industry goes beyond environmental impact. It encompasses a holistic approach involving the ethical sourcing of ingredient, energy efficient production process, and products that are safe and beneficial, not just for the consumers, but for the planet, of course. Now, this shift is driven by a more informed and conscious customer base who demand transparency and ethical practices from their preferred brands. So now we are not in that stage where we have to educate the customers. They are already educated. We only have to be transparent with them. Next slide, please. Um, the notable initiatives when we are talking about the raw material sourcing, this is exactly what it is. When we did a survey of understanding how the factors, which are the factors which affect the consumer behavior, knowledge about the ingredients, all natural ingredients, these were the preferable factors. Why? Because consumer feel that if it is natural, if it is real, they can easily recognize it. So the logic behind this analysis is that taste, price, these are just the gatekeepers and they are no longer the differentiating factors when we have to choose the winner from the rest of the pack. And hence, the traceability, notable ingredients, natural ingredients, or basically a larger concept of sustainability is something which has come up in the retail shelves. Next slide. So, when we did a survey in FMI, so our research shows a stark contrast in preferences between millennials and boomers. So, you can see here that while 76% of the millennials prefer to buy from brands that use sustainable and recyclable packaging, only 65% of the boomers consider this as priority. Now, of course, there will be a generational preference in shift in the consumer behavior pattern. Now, this generational shift underscores a broader trend towards environmental responsibility, which is rapidly becoming a deciding factor when the consumer is going to a retail shelf. Next on. If we are talking more about the packaging innovation, so innovation in packaging is the forefront of the sustainable practices. Whenever we are talking about the term sustainability or green environment related to a target product, whether it is from nutraceutical industry or across, our mind directly goes into packaging. So the customers and the suppliers, they both expect innovation is in packaging to be the primary source of sustainability practices. Um, Consumers now expect packaging solutions that not only protect the product but also protect the planet. This involves using, of course, materials that are recyclable, biodegradable, or made from renewable sources. So, by integrating and innovating the materials, we can have a larger significant impact, reducing the ecological footprint, of course. Um, in the screen, you guys can see how the ethical sourcing or the knowledge about the consumers can directly impact the thought process of the overall industry. Ethical sourcing is about ensuring that the ingredients are harvested responsibly and sustainably. It's about creating a traceable path from source to shelf, giving consumers a confidence in the product that they are choosing. And the brand behind them indicates how much they care for the customer and their needs. This commitment to ethical sourcing is becoming a key differentiator in the increasingly competitive nutraceutical market. We can see here that once when we did a survey with the manufacturers of or the suppliers, and we asked what is the one thing that is the must know or would like to know when we are talking about the range of practices in a company, you can see that almost everyone they would like to understand what the customer are thinking, replacing the consciousness of the consumption pattern and behavior. And now more and more consumers will focus on the ethically raised product, not just packaging, or not just the overall idea of sustainability, but the ethical practices behind it. So the brands here needs to take an activist approach, and consumers will turn to the brands, the companies, uh, which will be the leading force for the change in the next 10 years. Next slide. These are few of the topics that we have covered when it comes to the nutraceutical overall industry in Future Market Insights, which starts from dietary supplements, women health, probiotic supplements. But now, if I have to maybe talk more about the future outlook of how the sustainability industry or the green trend is growing across the industry, then as we look to the future, the industry is moving away from the the consumption towards a more mindful purchasing behavior. This shift is driven by a global customer base that is more aware of the environmental and social impacts. And as I said earlier, the brands, the companies, they have to take an activist approach. There are n number of strategies that we can discuss. We can have a certification process in line. We can have transparency and more authenticity in the claims that we are putting in our packaging brands. How the raw material sourcing is done actually has to be um, put in front of the customers. These are few of the practices that will give customers confidence when it comes to choosing a brand from a retail shelf. Um, this evolution presents significant opportunities for growth and innovation both. There is a clear market advantage for companies that proactively integrate sustainability practices into the business model. So it should not be just a trend or a jargon that a company is forced to follow. It has to be inculcated in the business processes, and the corporate or the organization needs to believe in it. From sourcing to packaging to marketing, sustainability can be anywhere and everywhere, and it can drive brand loyalty, open opportunities in the new markets, and even command a premium price if the product is launched successfully. The time to act is now. We at Future Market Insights, we encourage all the stakeholders in the nutraceutical industry to join us in this green revolution. By working together, we can transform challenges into opportunities. There are a lot of challenges with respect to the pricing, the packaging, sourcing of raw materials. but then they can be changed into opportunities and lead the way towards a more sustainable and prosperous future. So, thank you for your attention today. I hope this presentation has provided some valuable insights, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts and discuss this topic further during our panel discussion. For any further information, you can visit the website and you can reach out to us directly over an email as well. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much for that, Nandini. Some fantastic insights there, and certainly inspired plenty more questions for me to ask you during our Q&A at the end of this webinar. So now I'd like to bring in our second speaker, David Sackler, CEO of SDC Nutrition, to give his take on how sustainability-related dynamics are transforming the nutraceutical sector. Welcome, David.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Sarah, Nandini. Thank you very much for that. That was excellent. Very helpful. So quick background, I am David Sackler. I'm the CEO of SDC Nutrition. We are a nutritional manufacturer based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, here in the United States. We are a focus and specialize in powder manufacturing in all different packaging formats, capsules and tablets. So based upon a lot of the information that Nandini provided, we typically run across all of these issues as it relates to sourcing of materials, packaging, and work hand in hand with brands to help them kind of go from the ideation aspect of the business all the way down through manufacturing process and helping them get products into the market. So as a full service manufacturer and a service oriented manufacturer, we've obviously become very cognizant and aware and focused upon the sustainability side of the industry as that's continued to become relevant. So to just get into this and try to move through some of this information, which will be available separately, let's get into the sustainability in the nutritional industry if we can. Move into the next 2 slides if we could, please. So sourcing of ingredients, obviously, once you get past the idea, what are the ingredients that you're looking at when you're getting into the marketplace and brands are looking to do this? And what is the sourcing aspect of that? And what do we look for that's important to have the ability to actually make sustainable claims and actually employ that practice? Obviously, with organic and regenerative agriculture, when you're finding sources of natural ingredients, i.e. plant-based proteins, vitamins and minerals, farms that practice use organic practices, regenerative agriculture, all of that helps because it continues to maintain soil health, biodiversity, carbon sequestration. As that continues, the farm stays healthier, the purity of the products and the nutritional impact of those products continues go on as they continue to grow over generation. That's typically done also by seeing what you can find in terms of various certifications. Fair trade is critically important as well, mostly from a community standpoint, and fair trade within ethical labor. Also something that we look to have. That is very important to know what the mindset is of the ingredient supplier. And of course, non-GMO sourcing. We look at non-GMO. It's critically important. Obviously, that's part of the process in your SOPs to see how all of this, from where it's sourced, what their practices are, helps to get you to that point where you know exactly where the veracity of the paperwork, the support of the non-GMO sourcing, and all of these other aspects comes into play. Go to the next slide, please. So as part of all of this, both from the sourcing side and the manufacturing side on the ingredients through manufacturing, waste reduction and a circular economy. Now, a lot of nutritional manufacturers have started to implement a lot of these by reusing various different aspects of the product, trying to minimize waste and constantly recycle or repurpose. What we also see on the ingredient supplied side is the upcycling of certain ingredients to create certain ingredients. It's kind of interesting. Some suppliers that I've run into and like to work with are a little bit more creative on that standpoint. I use an example of a company called HTBA out of Barcelona, Spain, where they actually source all of their citrus from to produce their flavonoids are sourced from actual fruit that has fallen off the tree uh, as it continues to go through go through the harvesting process, as opposed to actively picking up. They've had a tremendous amount of success with this. They're an example of a wonderful green supplier on the ingredient side that actually practices what they preach. Um, Moving forward, also in the manufacturing process is closed loop water systems. Um, Energy efficiency and renewable energy. At SDC, we have grown over the past couple of years, whereas an example, we're going to have further opportunity to employ this in that this starts even in the construction phase or the build out phase of your facilities. It obviously works in relation to the farming side, how you build your facilities, the type of lighting that's utilized, heating and cooling systems, ensuring that there's enough insulation that's appropriate to minimize the amount of energy used during the manufacturing process. Same would be said for types of power. Preferably, the idea would be to use as much renewable energy as possible. That is something that we have started to look to employ on our side. Some other companies that we have seen, whether they use solar as an example to try to mitigate some of the use of the power that they're getting from traditional sources, has come into play. But this is something that comes in from a general concept that uh, companies will have from day one. It's not just an SOP mindset. It's something that's a belief system that you inculcate into your company and as you operate. We can move forward, please. Sustainable packaging is something that Nandini brought up, which is extremely important. Obviously, when you're dealing with the consumer, as I work with some of our partners, eye appeal is buy appeal, as they say. So it's not just the idea of it, it's also what it looks like, but is it real? Is it actually the sustainable packaging is critically important. Pricing does come into play with that, also practicality. So we work with some companies that use recycled plastics. That's typically the base point at which they work. Thankfully, there's been a lot of progress in that, the types of plastics that can be utilized and where that's employed, whether it be in jars or jugs or bottles. Glass, of course, is something that's used quite a bit. We work quite a bit with both of those. But we have seen some companies that, uh, again, a company that I utilize as an example would be a company called Gainful. They're a brand here in the United States that's gotten some significant traction in direct to consumer and mass market going into other markets. Their ethos from jump was to work with sustainable packaging. They went to a great extent to find the proper product that not just represented their belief system and their ethos, but actually looked as such on the shelf. Well intended, frankly, but what they wound up with a situation, and this is where a brand should look to ensure what the supplier is supplying them, how they're supplying it, how it's being brought in from the manufacturer of the ingredient of the materials to the nutritional manufacturer themselves comes in properly. And as an example is they had these spectacular looking packages that were pre-assembled when they came here to the United States. And we had to spend a lot of time going through breaking those down and then repackaging them. And then we're sourcing material. Was it stable? So this is something that's continuing to evolve, but I would suggest that any brand do their true due diligence to ensure that the suppliers that they work with are true to their ethos and what they're trying to accomplish. Gainful invariably did make certain changes that have been actually representative of what they're looking to do and still look fantastic on shelf and allows us as a manufacturer to work effectively with them to keep their costs down. So that's also something to please take into consideration. We could continue, please. Carbon footprint reduction. Obviously, all of these practices that I mentioned before using biodegradable, recyclable, compostable packaging. Very, very important. Again, thankfully, with the growth of this particular segment of the space, the importance of this, the recognition, not just for the consumer, but the industry understanding how important it is. This is becoming fairly common. There's been tremendous progress in the types of offerings that are available. There are still going to be certain growth opportunities for packaging suppliers to capitalize upon as we move ahead to get ahead of the curve, come up with the next big thing. But there's absolutely a lot on the table here that's great to go forward with. Be very diligent, as I mentioned before, in what you're looking to accomplish. Will it represent your brand properly? But also to truly check that the supplier is doing their job by giving you what you need. Okay. Sourcing ingredients locally whenever, wherever possible in a global economy where we're sourcing from all over the world as we do. Obviously, working with those suppliers that are also planning appropriately in terms of if they are producing internationally, and we're bringing in these materials, that they do have a certain amount of that material available, not just for just-in-time manufacture, but also to maintain these practices rather than just saying that they do. Okay, go to the next slide, please. Water stewardship, critically important as well. Obviously, one of the most precious resources is the one that we take for granted the most as well. In water conservation and water stewardship, treatment, recycling, almost upcycling. If we have worked with some companies that on the beverage side, for example, and Nandini, I don't know if you've seen this, where they're using rainwater and purifying that to make sure it's utilized. So any form of conservation, treatment, that's going to be green and sustainable will help represent what your plans are and your ethos is on this as well. Okay, next please. Social responsibility and ethical practices. So if you're going to be a sustainable, truly a true company that is going to practice this, but again, supplier, operator, manufacturer, the idea of fair trade is not just a logo. It's actually, are you truly treating your employees well? Do they feel as if they're a part of what you're looking to accomplish? Are you taking the extra steps to ensure their health and safety? All of this is critically important. It's not just important to have people. It's important to keep the people, keep them powered, keep them employed, keep them healthy. Working within the community and engaging with your community is critically important as well. We are always involved with our local community, not just in Pittsburgh, but throughout the country. And frankly, I would venture to say that people should look even beyond that to a little bit more of a worldwide engagement, whatever and wherever possible. Animal welfare, of course, ensuring that any animal-based nutritional products are sourced appropriately. Industrial farming being what it is, obviously it's prevalent, but there are those suppliers where you'll find that they are a little bit more costly, but frankly, the importance and the value of them is tantamount to this practice. Next slide, please. Green certifications and eco labels. Certified B Corp. Obviously, we are not yet as a manufacturer in that category. I don't venture to say there are many of those that are, but the social environmental performance standards is critically important. There are a number of companies that are getting into that as we're building into our new facility. These are the standards that we make. These are the highest standards possible. ISO 14001 certification, commitment to effective environmental management, both in terms of in the facility and all SOPs, again, from sourcing all the way down through manufacture and distribution. And green building practices, as I mentioned, tremendously important, something that we are involved with as we're building our brand new facility. We expect to be one of the leaders in green manufacturing here in the United States, while maintaining a level of pricing that is serviceable for our customers as well, because all of this, it is not inexpensive, but again, you have to lead and you have to invest into the future, not just of the company, but for the people with whom you work and for whom you work. Next slide, please. Product formulation innovation. Very important, again, from the idea as well, and where you're going to be sourcing your ingredients and your packaging. Plant-based alternative proteins. We work with here in the United States, one of the largest and most and prominent plant-based protein companies that also does tremendous manufacturing. A company called Purist Proteins. They do an excellent job, wonderful products that they provide, all within the green format, all with the idea of being a good, solid contributor to the industry and tremendous quality of product. Working with various different functional ingredients, again, trying to capitalize on this mindset for the consumer and bring all of that forward. And of course, the quality of the product is based upon the flavor systems and the nutritional impact. So reducing sugar, reducing salt, all of that has an impact, not just on the human body, but obviously on the environmental impact of how you source these ingredients. Next slide, please. So supply chain transparency is extremely important, and it's an SOP that's difficult to really build out, at least in theory. But when possible, obviously relying upon the quality of the information by your supplier is important. That is secured through if there are those suppliers that are willing to work with you on blockchain and having the ability to do that. Of course, the sourcing audit, very important to have any quality personnel do their due diligence effectively on any supplier, whether it be on an ingredient supplied whenever possible or the manufacturing source itself. We as the manufacturers are essentially the middleman in so much. We aggregate all of that information as well as the materials. So we do our level best and have a highly trained quality team to ensure that the veracity, again, of the information that's provided is actual and is sustainable for you or supportive for you to meet your goals. Next slide, please. R&D. Again, all of this is part of now you know who the ingredients are, now you know the suppliers are. What else are they involved with doing? I work with a lot of different suppliers. We work with a lot of different suppliers on trying to come up with the next big thing, the next new opportunity, whether it be a cleaner product, a better product, a greener product, something that has greater bioavailability or greater functionality, which is obviously important in the nutritional space. The idea of working with constant new sustainable ingredients. What are the production methods? How are they doing this with? Are they working with on algae-based nutrition, which is again a sustainable format for various different deliverables and different aspects of what you're looking to achieve. Packaging solutions, ingredient solutions. Are there research institutions that are showing or other companies that you can work in Congress with to help you achieve what your goals are to make those claims and actually provide the actual product. Sustainable innovation. This company that I mentioned earlier, HTBA from Barcelona, is from what I've seen, one of the leaders in that. They actually are very green and are huge in green chemistry to ensure that even their R&D, as they're creating new flavonoids, as they create and manufacture their vitamin, their B12 principally, is green. Well sourced, well maintained as a practice, and continues all the way down to the superior quality products that they provide. Never going to be the cheapest, but you get absolute quality for what you pay for, and they are what they say. So from when you can find a company such as that from beginning to end practices what they preach, it's someone that you want to stay with. Next slide, please. That's it. So from beginning to end, it's important to understand that due diligence is important from whether they be a brand or a manufacturer to ensure that you have the capacity to really live by your claims. Manufacturers such as SDC, we are one of the companies that will absolutely practice that, provide the information, do the due diligence necessary with you as well as on your behalf, from an idea and a concept to ingredient sourcing, packaging sourcing to make sure that when you go to market with your products, you are ensured that what you say to the consumer to meet their needs, which is wonderfully, for me, it's exciting. It's something that I've seen evolved over the past 30 years that I've been in the industry. And it's continuing to be beneficial. So this way, at some point, if my children want to get into the industry, there's something that they can get it, they can be a part of. That's all that I have. Thank you very much. I look forward to the next steps.
Thank you very much for your talk, David. Great stuff. Plenty of food for thought there in terms of the direction in which the industry is heading, and also what strategies businesses need to adopt in order to remain relevant. So great. So I'd like now to bring back Nandini as well, and for our Q&A discussion featuring both of our expert speakers. Welcome back. Great. So I have quite a few questions for you. The first one is addressed to you both. So for many consumers, sustainability is today seen as an expectation, especially for sort of younger generations, as you mentioned, Nandini, not merely a marketing message. Yet a significant swathe of consumers remain unconvinced by eco claims of brands, not least due to the quite significant greenwashing that we've seen from some more unscrupulous players, shall we say. So within that context, how can companies get it right when communicating on their sustainability achievements or improvements?
Yes. So I believe customer does have a lot of reservations because of the lately greenwashing happening across the globe. To effectively convey their sustainability efforts and genuinely resonate with consumers, companies need to focus on, as I said earlier as well, transparency, authenticity, and tangible actions. Authenticity now in claims. So be genuine. Only make claims that can be fully backed by data and specific actions. Avoid vague statements and ensure that all claims are supported by verifiable information. Uh, David did mention a lot of certifications. So third-party certifications also play a very important role. Brands need to obtain certifications from reputable third parties, such as say USDA, Organic, Fair Trade, B Corp, LEED. So these certifications lend credibility to the brand claims. And there are a lot of companies who are already doing this. For example, Garden of Life, Mega Food, Now Foods. So they have numerous certifications, including GMP, Good Manufacturing Practice, Non-GMO Project Verification, USDA, etc., etc., which ensures consumers of their commitment to quality and ethical standards. Um, Transparency throughout the supply chain, at each node of the supply chain, is important. Brand needs to do a full disclosure, share detailed information about the sourcing of ingredient, the manufacturing process, and the lifestyle impact of the product. So this can include publishing sustainability reports or creating sections on your website which can be dedicated to sustainability practices. Engage customers. So use interactive platforms or tools that allow consumers to see the origin of ingredients and the steps taken to ensure sustainability in the production process, because now you can see that sustainability is not just about packaging. Companies such as, I'll say, Gaia Herbs or Herb Farm, they have practices which are fully transparent with their Meet Your Herb traceability program, which allow consumers to enter the ID number, which can be found on their product packaging, to discover its origin, harvest methods, processing methods, and even the lab test results. So you can see that the brands have already started doing such kind of innovative things to get the validation from the customers. So by focusing these strategies, companies in this ecosystem can effectively communicate their sustainability achievements in a way that build trust. And it is
Hmm.
about creating a narrative of genuine effort and measurable impact and not just green promises. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Great. And David, did you want to add anything to that in terms of obviously the consumers more connected and educated than ever before? How do companies sort of get it right when communicating on their sustainability
Well,
achievements?
as Nandini clearly mentioned, the communication, the manner in which you do so, the easiest way to do it for a company, if they're actually employing these, and hopefully that they are, again, they have to provide the necessary support, is to do so on their website. There's only so much space that you
Hmm.
have on a package that you can put all of this information on. The symbolism associated, whether it be a USDA organic certified logo here in the United States, or a non-GMO logo, if they're legitimate, you can go on the web, frankly, and find all of these that are created by various graphic designers. So it's important for the consumer to do their own due diligence, and that the company be truthful in what they're trying to represent, practice what they preach, and provide the information
Hmm.
necessary to do so. A little bit more difficult to do when it's an impulse buy, i.e., a beverage off of a shelf. But the consumer has to. The packaging is what's going to get their attention. As I mentioned earlier, eye appeal is buy appeal. If it's going to hit all those emotional notes, as well as connectivity
Hmm.
with the consumer, that will be the start. But for a consumer to do their own due diligence, and that the companies that they're buying these products from are truthful and are supportive of that with information.
Yeah. Great. Another one for you initially, David, and then we'll bring in Nandini. Yes, consumers do say that they want products to be more sustainable, sustainably sourced, sustainably processed, packaged, etc. But is price still a barrier? How willing are they to pay a premium on such products?
Uh, as a consumer, I found that it is, and I do know that is something that they run into in terms of the difference in the pricing for all the, shall we say, the good housekeeping seals of approval that are provided with all these different certifications. But I do find that generationally there is a difference. Obviously, it's important. I do believe that as the younger the generation, they are much more willing to pay up for the quality that is perceived. I think that's also something that is based upon availability, where you are in a particular environment, suburban, urban, rural, what have you. All of that does come into play. I would venture to say that I've seen this growth over the past 30 years. Consumers have become much, much more willing, provided they have a comfort level with the information that's provided and the packaging and the product that's presented to them. Quality will also relay that. And frankly, there is a difference. There's a different taste palette associated with the traditional, conventional products that are out there versus the greener, better for you products. And there's an adaptability of that as well. As I personally find them to be much better. I don't like highly sweetened products. I don't like artificially sweetened products. Our standard in practice and house for us is when we're creating or ideating new products that require an organoleptic experience, a flavor system. We set a standard of trying to achieve that first, the higher standard with all natural first, because frankly, if the brand wants to go artificial, that's easy. It's easy to replicate. It is a little bit more costly to do the natural. I will say, for example, sweetener systems have equaled out a little bit in relation to natural
Mhm.
versus artificial, so that does work. But once you get into the whether it be grass-fed whey, things along those lines, there will be a price delta, and there are those consumers that will pick them up.
Fantastic. And Nandini, does that differentiation when you're talking about the generations and what they're willing to pay, is that kind of borne out by FMI's research as well?
Yes, I think
Are they willing to pay a
yes,
premium?
yes, for sure. I think price overall remains a significant barrier when it comes to the consumer decision around the sustainable products specifically. Um, in my presentation, we did saw that the research also indicates that certain consumer segments such as say millennials or Gen Zs, they are more willing to pay a premium price for sustainability. These consumers often place a high value on ethical production, socially responsible products, which can outweigh the price sensitivity. And the same trend goes for the higher income consumers as well, who are more willing to
Mhm.
absorb the cost of the sustainability, partly because they can afford to prioritize ethics over economy. But then, having said that,
Yes.
now what I feel is that since the larger customer base are millennials and Gen Z for any brand, um, context specific decision has rather taken a turn. What I mean is, willingness to pay largely depends on the specific context or a category of the product. A product needs to give some kind of value add to me. Only then maybe I will take price or costing maybe as a lesser priority. For example, consumers might be more inclined to pay extra for an organic product or a nutraceutical which is perceived to have a direct health benefit, as opposed to other less directly impactful sustainable goods. I always give a example. 5 6 years back, we used to go to a retail shelf or a drugstore, and we used to buy vitamin supplements or calcium supplements. But now, when we as a consumer go to the retail shelf, we do not just buy a vitamin or a calcium or a collagen supplement unless it is giving some kind of benefit, whether it is related to a healthier skin or healthier hair or gut health or mental health. So yeah, so any value add will be much more appreciated, of course clubbed with the natural ingredient that everybody is talking about. Natural ingredient plus identifiable ingredient. So
Yeah.
pricing is important, but it has, I would say, in my opinion, not the very first priority that Gen Zs or the millennials feel when they go into the retail shelf. So strategies to encourage premium acceptance, education,
Mhm.
communication, visible certifications will be important. Tiered pricing strategies. So offering a range of product options at a different price point can help accommodate both budget conscious customers and those willing to pay more for premium sustainable products. So these can be the strategies which can do well.
I see. Yes. Yes. One sort of area that we haven't covered too much is regarding regulation. I was just wondering, in terms of like tightening sustainability regulation. Certainly in the EU, we've got the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, which will have an impact far beyond the EU in terms of its reach. But there's a risk that it shifts the burden of responsibility to onto the sort of supply chain actors, at the beginning of the supply chain, who have the least, the small scale farmers, for example, collecting botanicals, who have the least kind of resources available to enact that change. So within that context, how can the industry, i.e. like the manufacturers and the brands, support those kind of smaller actors, those small scale farmers, for example, to transition to the more sort of sustainable practices that we need to see?
Well, from the manufacturer's perspective, it is a daunting situation. Well, let me backtrack. Here in the United States, we're looking at a less regulated environment, typically.
Mhm.
I think that we might be in for a bit of a change going forward, as to how that will work. It seems to be that we are now very deep in the conversation of following more of a regulatory approach to this business and this industry, uh, uh, for better health and sustainability long term. It's something that we're keeping a
Mhm.
very close eye on. It's something I'm very interested in, regardless of your political leanings. The idea of making America healthy again is an actual thing, and regardless of what your beliefs are on certain aspects, the idea of cleaning up the system is very important, and I think it's about to be employed. How that's going to trickle down to the farmer is not something I'm really sure about yet, to be perfectly honest with you. We have to see what the lay of the land is going to look like, so to speak, as we go forward. Admittedly, I'm not as familiar with the European actions as I am here in the States. Familiar enough to know that
Mhm.
it's going to be a costly endeavor for everybody. It is, but it again,
Yeah.
uh, the first steps in creating something new are usually the most expensive. And as we
Mhm.
start to build and refine out these points of operation and regulatory oversight and meeting these particular standards that are required to move forward, it'll become less expensive. That would be the expectation. It's also going to be incumbent upon those governmental agencies to work hand in hand with everybody in the supply chain system to help them adapt appropriately. That's the
Mm.
perspective that I have. If the government is going to employ these things, it's going to be important upon them rather than just throw a website up to say these are your new standards and practices. I think there's going to be a requirement of a little bit of hand holding and direct involvement to facilitate that. Everybody's responsible, not just the independent farmer or the manufacturer of the brand.
Mhm. Yeah. And so, how important do you see collaboration in taking the nutraceutical industry's sustainability performance to the next level? What kind of partnerships do you envisage could help sort of shift the dial in that respect?
Uh, Being as proactive as possible with your suppliers, again, speaking as a manufacturer, being as proactive with your supply chain is critically important. Knowing what the offerings are, but also providing them feedback from what we're getting from the brands is critically important. Knowing where the trends are is important as well, and making sure that that's relayed so they can stay ahead of the curve or allow us to collectively stay ahead of the curve is important. Communication is key, both inbound and outbound on that side. So we're able to, as long as we're getting this information from companies such as FMI, which would be a great way to look at it. To hear you're providing all this wonderful information, making sure that it's clearly available is and relatable uh, will help to do that. Uh, I would also suggest that brands look at a little bit more of a planning in their business,
Mhm.
rather than not just in terms of product ideation and development, but also in their manufacturing and distribution practice, to allow for all of this to take place effectively so you can plan appropriately, get the appropriate information to achieve the support of the message you're trying to get out there. I think that's critically important.
Mhm.
Just in time manufacturing and trying to pivot from left to right, from moment to moment, it becomes very difficult for any level of sustainability, and that trickles all the way down to the farmer. They have to go where the
Mhm.
business demands them, and sometimes not being able to follow practices to be able to stay in business because of pivotal changes is critically important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nandini, just bringing you back in now, one piece of advice would you give to brands as they're embarking on their sustainability journey, or indeed as they continuing their tradition to more sustainable practices and policies?
So, one essential piece of advice for brands either beginning or continuing their journey towards sustainability is to embed sustainability into the core of the business and not just use it as a jargon or just as a marketing tool or a compliance requirement. It has to be something which has to be done as a central pillar of the business model, decision making, and then the corporate culture. Aligning sustainability with business objectives. So, clear integration of sustainability policies, um, in the primary business objectives, with the thought process of understanding how the practices can drive the business growth, reduce the risk, and of course, enhance the competitive advantage. A long term planning is required. Companies need to treat sustainability as an investment rather than a cost. And this perspective will help the brands in planning and allocating resources that not only meet the current regulatory requirements, but also anticipate future trends and regulations. Collaboration with suppliers is a huge um, assessment that any brand can do, since we are talking more and more about the transparency and authenticity of the ingredient and the product. So brands need to work closely with the suppliers to ensure they understand and align with the sustainability standards. Offer support where necessary. We were talking about the small scale farmers or small scale players who are across the supply chain. Right now, the conventional supply chain or backward integration of the process is where a lot of intermediaries are involved, where the financial support somehow gets distributed. So particularly the big brands, what they can do is reduce the overall value chain, supply chain, so that the profitability can be distributed properly. Uh, it is, of course, related with the stakeholder engagement management, listen to the customer, what they are saying, and giving the direct feedback to the suppliers or even the farmers who are associated with the value chain. Product innovation, of
Mhm.
course, designing something which can be eco-friendly, recyclable, reduced energy consumption, and of course the use of sustainability material is something that is to be used. And I think above every single term or jargon, every single brand needs to set a clear matrix and a goal. So define clear,
Mhm.
measurable sustainability goals and regularly report on the progress. This transparency not only builds a trust with the stakeholders, but also holds the company accountable. So, as I said earlier, have maybe a section on your website so that everybody, either the stakeholders or the customers, can track how you are achieving your sustainability goals. Everybody understand that it cannot be done overnight because the whole ecosystem needs to change. But what the customers are trying to understand is where the direction is with the brands. So yeah, I think setting clear goals and then monitoring those trends and regulations is much more important if a brand has to succeed in this kind of environment.
Agreed.
Fantastic.
Agreed.
Thank you. Right. Yeah. Well, time is slipping away, but if we could just have a take-home message from you both, maybe a 30 second in a nutshell message for our audience, that would be great. In terms of how the industry is currently approaching and indeed performing on sustainability and its future prospects.
Yeah, so I think if I had just have to continue, the point that I was saying was have a clear matrix, have clear goals, have measurable factors that you can showcase to your clients, your stakeholders, will be much more beneficial for the brands. From the customer point of view, I think understand your target customer. Sustainability is not just about a trend or a claim. You have to build a product considering a target customer in your mind, not one product can serve all. So rather than making a plethora of products, which is, have a semi-regulated demand or certifications. Better is to work on one product, understanding the target customer, and then building the product on that. So whether it is related to organic, sustainably sourced ingredient or clean label, whichever one thing you want to build on that, focusing the target customer.
Mhm.
So I think that will be much
Fantastic.
more easier for the brands to move ahead with.
Yep.
Lovely.
Um,
Thank you, Nandini. And David,
yep.
Final word from
Very
you?
quickly, it's a journey, not a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So planning is critically important. Understanding is important. Asking the right questions and holding everybody, both internally and in your supply chain, ingredient suppliers, packaging suppliers, manufacturers, accountable, asking them for the appropriate information so you know that you're staying on the path that you'd like to continue upon to achieve the goals. If we're going to take the sustainability side of this business, seriously, it has to be treated as such. It cannot just be just a reaction and trying to appease one particular aspect of the process. It's an effort. It's a costly endeavor in terms of time. It can be a costly endeavor in terms of money, but most importantly will be the success factor in achieving the goals that you're planning on and having a successful brand and a successful business and a successful relationship with the entire supply chain that you have. So just be true to your ethics, be true to your mission statement and your ethos, practice it, and just be as patient as you possibly can because everybody wants to be on the shelf tomorrow. And these things take time.
Yes.
And the industry itself is catching up. The growth of this aspect and the turn over and the change over the past 20 to 30 years has been absolutely dramatic. And that's why we're having this conversation, because it's becomes tremendously important, not just as an opportunity, but as a necessity.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So just a quick reminder for our audience that we'll be sending you the presentations and the webinar recording after the event. And these will be emailed to you the day after the session. And that is a wrap. Big thank you to our two fabulous speakers, Nandini and David.
Thank
you
you
very much.
Thank you. Fantastic discussion today. Plenty of valuable insights, obviously. And indeed, thank you to everyone for joining us. And I hope you've gained, plenty of valuable insights from this session. Wishing you all the very best and enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.